Good afternoon, Alex. How are you?
Good afternoon, Leon. Good afternoon, everybody, and who may watch us, listen to
Yeah,
us.
it's been a while. We talked on camera at least, and I don't think we've ever done it in English. And I decided to do it, or we decided to do it in English because we are going to cover a subject which might be of interest to a non-Russian speaking audience as well. We will be talking about the upcoming mayoral election um, where Zohran Mamdani, who is a scary figure to many of our, to some and many of our fellow members of the tribe, is on the verge of becoming a mayor. And we'll talk about his candidacy, his opponents, the trends, why he emerged. So, Alex, what do you think? Will he become a mayor? The
It
mayor
looks
of our
it
city?
looks likely, although it's in my mind at least not yet fully guaranteed. Actually, the election is practically already ongoing. There's early voting, and they say that the early voters tend to be older. They, by definition, being older, they tend to be more conservative. There may prevail people, or at least maybe substantial amount of people who will be actually voting for either Andrew Cuomo or Curtis Sliwa, whom I also intend to vote for. And by the way, the how you call it, like claret shirt is because to signify that I am still a Republican after all these years, even with what's
Um,
been going on with the
okay,
Republican Party.
let me stop you there,
Got to go ahead,
and
please. Yeah,
let's have more of a dialogue, if
sure.
as much as it's
I am
possible.
known to hijack conversations. Yes, I know that.
Right. So first, I want to say that I voted already for the right person, and as they
The
say,
right or the right wing?
let me stand with my original answer, and on my polling side on lower side, I saw younger crowd voting.
Mhm.
So I don't know how true it is that the older people are voting, but we'll see the results quite soon. But I wanna ask you or take you to task for your voting, for your prospective voting for Sliva. Don't you understand that it's a
Let me
spoiler
check.
kind of vote? At least according to the polls, he has like 11-12%, and this is the 11-12% that separate
Mm-hmm.
Cuomo and
Cuomo
Mamdani.
from
So it wouldn't make sense to give your vote to Cuomo, even though you might not like him. Could you explain the rationale for
uh,
such voting?
unfortunately, Andrew Cuomo, who I once liked, and I thought he was a hopeful and promising candidate for U.S. presidency back when he was at his peak. Although the way he became a New York governor, succeeding failed Democratic governors, first Spitzer, who was such a big star, totally flopped and lasted only a year and a half, and then David Patterson, who was a vice governor and was a nice man but poor governor. And it's kind of weird that representative of the same failed party still succeeds governorship. Yet Andrew Cuomo was a successful governor once until he ran into trouble both managing COVID and managing his sexual impulses. And that put a big fat red cross on his candidacy and his political career, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many other people are concerned. And his attempt and comeback, it's like, his campaign is on life support from big time donors and part of media who just don't want to take risks with Mamdani. Andrew Cuomo himself performed poorly, both in the Democratic debate and in two general debates. I've called him repeatedly a stalled, stayed yesterday's sandwich. He is
Alex,
being pushed down our throats without having done anything to convince you to vote for him. It's a scaremongering against Mamdani. Yes.
Let me exercise my host rights. If I am indeed the host of this, I don't know who
You
which
are.
one of us is, but I just wanna repeat my question.
My
If these
Sliwa.
polls are true, do you realize that by voting for Sliva, you are in effect voting for Mamdani? And
Uh,
is that okay with you?
I Yes, it's okay with me because I think Mamdani, as worrying as some of his stances, and while being a Republican, this is why I mentioned that I am a Republican, but I am also open-minded enough to not buy into much of the bashing that Mamdani is sustaining over his alleged anti-Semitism, non-existent in my opinion. His hostility to Israel, which I think is within the allowed frame of criticism of any state or any entity, or his socialist economical leanings, which in some cases have been implemented and in some cases have even worked. I believe that he deserves at least a chance. That's number one.
So
Number
you're
two,
in
I
effect a Mamdani supporter.
I am not. See, that's a problem of many people, especially in Russian-speaking community, but not only that they see everything so by how you call it binarily. If you are not for Cuomo, you are for Mamdani. I am voting for Curtis Sliwa, who, in my opinion, performed the best in both debates, and I feel sorry for him not being able to convert his local celebrity status into something more politically meaningful, because he's a staple. He's been staple of New York life for like 50 or 60 years. He's actually done something for the city. If you listened to all the debates, even 4 years ago against Eric Adams, and he warned us that Eric Adams was going to fail, by the way, he is a person who has much more substance in terms of particular issues and much more ideas about how to solve those issues. If people were, it's even odd that somebody said Edward Portnikov said, the leading Jewish Ukrainian journalist, that today politicians who win are not the ones who convince, but ones who entertain. And that's even said that Sliwa, who himself has been an entertainer for so many years, radio host, the founder of Guardian Angels, and so on, he was not able to be the entertainer in this race. Instead, it's Mamdani with his, as some note, silly smile that actually can carry, that silly smile can carry him to mayorship. Sliva, to my opinion, is somebody who is a person of principles, who has a backbone. And I have better respect for this type of politicians, even if they trail and fail to win elections, because, a person of principles, in my opinion, is worth, as they say, it's better to lose with a smart one than to gain with dumb one. Or in this case, it's better to lose with the righteous one, with the upstanding one, than to win with a fickle one, be it Cuomo or be it Mandani. And besides, many people believe, and I share just one last point, that Cuomo is not that different from Mamdani. It's just the difference is in style. The difference is not in substance. There were times 10 years ago when Republicans called Cuomo a socialist. So it's a false choice in a sense.
Well, all of them are socialist to a certain degree. This is a very socialist city, actually. If you think about housing programs that this city has, no one in the world has such programs. I think when people hear that, you can get, an apartment here that costs $5,000 a month, you can get it for $600, as many actually of our acquaintances did, just because your income is below a certain level. And in fact, there are not even income guidelines after you get into that apartment. So, I mean, that's extremely socialist as far as our housing market is concerned. And all of them support some kind of government involvement. But I just want to go back to what you've said on a few issues. I'm not writing it down, unfortunately, because I have this kind of strange quirk that on a Saturday I don't write things down, although um, I'm broadcasting this now, but that's a different point. As far as debate, I would agree with you that Sliva performed better than the other two. And if it was only on that basis, maybe he should be given a chance. I don't know how serious of a person he is. I think he's a provocateur by nature. I don't know how well whether he's suited for a mayor role. Whether he's not, he's just great as an entertainer, as a, in his guardian angel capacity. That's all great, but I don't know whether it could translate into actually managing the city because there should be some seriousness, some steadfastness in that, stability. I probably wanted to say, and that's what I don't think he has. I believe Cuomo has it. He, I think, was unfairly treated um, for in both for COVID management. I think I saw him every morning at 11 o'clock. I think they had briefings, and I saw how much he actually was on top of the situation, how he managed the crisis, and the fact that there was this nursing home debacle. I don't think he should be faulted for that. We just didn't know how to deal with the COVID crisis. It was something completely new to us, and certain things failed. So I wouldn't blame him for that. I would not. I also think I couldn't understand really why he resigned. I mean, I understood he resigned because of the sexual allegations, but I don't think it rose to the level of resignation because there were no real accusations of impropriety that he forced someone to have sex or something to that effect. There are certain comments he made, certain environment he created. I didn't see anything that really could even remotely compare to his predecessors that left this post because of sexual his predecessor Elliot Spitzer obviously there was a prostitution scandal. I mean, what Cuomo was accused of, I think, just pales in comparison. There is nothing real criminal. Then there was this Anthony Weiner. He was not the governor, but still. Then there was James McGreevey, who gave a job to his lover, and so on. That those sexual scandals really they merited, you
And
know,
there
re
once was a
re
certain president by the name Bill
resignation.
Clinton.
What's that?
There was one certain president by the name Bill Clinton who apparently had a sex addiction, both
Well,
before
yeah,
and
that's too.
while
Yeah,
being.
that's too probably more serious. But this, I don't think. I was listening and like, what is he? Hacked somebody? Like,
Well,
what is it? What is what's worthy of resignation? But maybe I'm not fully briefed on the details, but that's my understanding. So I think he shouldn't have been thrown out of office for that. As far as Mamdani is concerned, I mean, there might be excessive fears, and what he's saying right now, uh, at least is trying to placate people and to pacify Jewish New Yorkers, saying that he will be fine. But I think he's done a lot to alienate Jewish New Yorkers, especially more with those traditional Jewish New Yorkers, the Brooklynites, let's put them, South Brooklyn residents, which we've been for many years. We had been, I should say. Yeah, he created this rift with his positions that he shouldn't have taken really, even if he believes it. The fact that that he will arrest Netanyahu, for example. If he believes in it, this has nothing to do with being a mayor of New York. This, taking such a political stance. So it's I think the fear of our fellow members of the tribe is, I think,
warranted.
it can be explained. If it's
It can be
justified
explained.
fully, but I understand it.
it can be explained. Well, there's a bunch of things here to cover. I'll try to be as brief as I can, but as you know, brevity is not sister of my talent. You know, as
I didn't completely, just
okay,
describe my,
all right,
my disagreements with Mamdani candidacy. I didn't even
for
touch
sure, for
upon it.
sure.
I was just saying, was talking about the fears, but please respond to what you think is warranted and then remind me if I forget to tell you guys, you and everybody why I don't like Mamdani as a candidate.
Well, I'll start though with Sliva. I support him precisely because I see him as the most steadfast of all the candidates. As far as Cuomo, I want to mention, Mamdani mentioned that one of the women that accused Cuomo of sexual harassment was present in the audience during the second debate. And he said that these people don't have a voice and I will be a voice for them. This is a populistic proclamation, of course. Many uh, politicians on the right and on the left lay out this type of voice. Trump, in a way, is the voice of the previously voiceless white regular America, and so on. But nevertheless, the seriousness of accusations, even though those accusations did not end in convictions of then Governor Cuomo, the seriousness of them, in my opinion, cannot be overstated. He was reputed to ask sexual questions young interns who were like just being interviewed for positions by him, or stuff like that. He was told. I think it's a proven story that he was basically like touching inappropriately a female state trooper while on a elevator ride. So that's all serious. As far as COVID, you could say that he is not to blame for the initial problems we had, but you could also say that President Trump was not to blame. But it's a basically, common ground by today that people who were in charge, both in America and all over the world, were to one or another extent to blame. They are our elected leaders and they must be responsible for what is going on. And it was not something totally unheard of. Yes, it was a epidemic on a very grand scale, but it was not absolutely something out of the blue and something totally new. People could know how to handle it if they care to learn, from the past. Now, as far as Mamdani, um, again, the role of New York mayor goes far beyond the role of New York mayor. Rudy Giuliani once kicked out Yasser Arafat, by then Nobel Peace winner. It was like 97, out of some kind of concert. Stances that the New York mayor takes, including on the matters of international politics and stuff, are important. By the way, I believe Mamdani says he would also arrest Vladimir Putin.
Yeah,
And
I didn't hear that, but I would agree with you that New York City mayor, by just the virtue of his position, has a lot of weight and can exercise some weight beyond just being a mayor. But what he's proposing to exercise this his support for BDS, his support for arresting Netanyahu, his calls for globalizing the Intifada. I mean, now he might tone that all that down, or some of it, but some of it he still
mhm,
insists on. That creates a very inhospitable climate, a very hostile atmosphere in the city with the Jewish New Yorkers. You cannot, when you have like 1.5 million Jews, I think, living here, you cannot take such positions. You just simply can't because
you do not. Well, first of all,
you alienate the community. Much of the
let me remind you, during
community.
the Democratic debate, he was the only person who said that he was not going to make a trip overseas when, if elected, city mayor. Everybody else were saying, "I'm going to go to Israel, to Jamaica, to Colombia, to I'm not sure Italy or whatever." He was the only one that said, "I am going to stay here because I'm going to be elected the mayor of this city, and this is the city that I will have to take care of." So he owes his loyalty first and foremost to this city, of course, with all its diversity. And, first of all, the criticism that he lays out at Israel is a criticism that some Jewish group lay out, and I insist that it's not because those Jewish groups, be it ultra orthodox like Satmars or ultra reform or whatever leftist ones like Jews for Peace or whatever they're called, that they are self-hating Jews. No, they are just as much conscious Jews and proud Jews as we are. They just understand the main Jewish commandment of seeking justice in a different way. And they
Yeah.
believe today, unfortunately, that Israel commits injustice, that Israel's leader commits injustice, and so on. About the globalized intifada, from what I understand, the term intifada is used even in Yad Vashem Museum in Jerusalem as a description for a Warsaw Ghetto uprising, because intifada means an uprising. And when we look at the world today, I would say that if we saw finally the overthrow of Maduro or Khamenei or Lukashenko and all those scumbags, that would be an intifada too. Moreover, the Jewish rebellions, whether Bar Kokhba or Maccabees, or even the fight for independence of Israel, those were Jewish intifadas. And yes, I'm a Republican, and I'm saying that.
Course, we can, redefine terms, or if they, in fact, may have been redefined, but we shouldn't forget what sparked those terms, where they came from. Same thing could be said for from the river to the sea, that have always been a term of that meant the eradication of Jewish state. Now they're saying that this is just for like the rights of the Palestinians, both in Israel and Gaza, that for equality. I mean,
Well,
whoever
the
says it
question,
with that intention, let it be
yeah,
so. But it has not originated as such, and I
I
don't
would be
think.
more I would be more concerned with Mamdani a few years ago flipping the bird to Columbus statue, but he has apologized since then for that. I would be more concerned that Mamdani is, to look at generally at his platform, that he wants to decriminalize prostitution, shut down the Gifted Kids program, stuff like that. That's things that
All
he should be
right. So that's
apologized for.
what I
His
think.
attitude towards Israel.
Everything is of concern, and what I've said is of concern. But as mentioned before, I wanted to come back to my general
Mhm.
disagreement with him.
With
Often it
me.
comes down to personalities, and just like as a person, I just listen to him, and I see such emptiness. It's like you listen to some chat GPT, that some prefabricated answers are given, something that just sounds beautiful. It's just like somehow someone, I don't know much about his candidacy, who's behind it. I mean, but somebody just propelled this like beautiful picture of multiculturalism, inclusion, whatever it is, and the populist version of, like, let's give handout things to people, and but there is nothing substantive behind it. And if he's actually asked, taken to task for about his proposals, he wouldn't be able to explain how he would finance them, like how they
He
would
did. He
benefit.
did. Actually, he did. He did. It's those things he offers that many people criticize. He wants to bring up the taxation levels of the rich, the upper rich, and the corporations up to the level of New Jersey. I am not a specialist in this field, but that's how, from what I understand, that's how he wants to finance his free public transport programs, or his creation of more
But
affordable housing and stuff, rent freeze and all
I,
that. He has
I, sh-
offered some. Mhm.
I should tell you, I don't think really that these programs that he's proposing, they are necessary. As far as our public transportation goes, it's effectively free because it's not because the fare violations are not enforced. I mean, you could
So
see
some
every
people
day.
still pay because some people are more
You could
conscientious.
see people standing right across from the talking booth, or holding the door open for people to come in. And then there are those people hired under Adams administration. I don't know who got this contract for how many millions of dollars, that stand there and supposed to stop it, and they don't stop it either. So I mean, I'm only for free transportation, because that would eliminate the need for those people and paying them money
Of
for
course.
nothing, really, for enforcing, for quote unquote enforcing things. So only
Well,
on the, I think, but jokes aside, I think there should be serious enforcement as it's been, but there should be programs, and there are programs for low-income New Yorkers that they pay not $3, but $1.50 for transportation, just based on their income levels. So it's been around, and maybe even it could be like free for them. I don't know what it is, but it shouldn't be free, across the board. I don't think so. The
well,
transportation costs money. It has to be subsidized. It has to be supported by the people. As far as the rent freeze, as I said before, it's a very socialist city when it comes to rental market. We have people who pay like $1,000 a
apparently
month
not socialist enough.
when somebody
Apparently not
pays five
socialist enough.
thousand. What's that?
Apparently not socialist enough. It's a city that has had huge backlog of applicants for Section 8 for other programs. It's a city where sometimes where there
Well,
is
that's
many
that's
slum
not
type
gonna that's not gonna
buildings.
change because there is a limited availability
You won't
such
know if you
of,
don't
of
try.
such
You won't know if you
apartments.
don't try.
But I'm saying that this rent freeze really is not necessary. There is a rent stabilization in New York City. People pay 3% a year to 4.5% in 2 years increases, which are consistent with inflation, which are not excessive.
Well,
So I don't think it's necessary.
that's
It costs more to maintain with each year. It costs more to maintain the properties, and there should be some increases. I just don't understand the program exists, and it's a very good program, rent stabilization program, and help many New Yorkers.
but
So
many New
I
Yorkers
don't
don't even
feel
have
that we need.
appropriate housing. Like I
Okay,
said, there's
but
a huge
if
backlog,
right, so let's
and
focus
not
on
all of
that,
them
and
are able.
let's focus
Mhm.
on that, and not create a fix on something that doesn't need to be fixed. There is rent stabilization.
There
There
is
is
a
a
wait a
reasonable
second.
rent increases. Why should it be
Wait a
free,
second. First of
frozen? I
all,
don't know.
generally, the issue of affordability of life in New York, as far as both housing and food and everything, is the front issue, the prime issue of this election. This is why the issues of whether attitude towards Israel or sexual harassment or whatever are not prime. The prime
I,
issue
I
really
I
is
think, excuse me, I think the affordability for life in New
affordability.
York is not for actually for low income New Yorkers. Those New Yorkers are doing quite well in their subsidized residences, while
White low income ones.
while others who don't
Mhm,
qualify for the subsidized programs are
mhm.
forced to pay for $4,000 a month rent for studios in Manhattan, and they don't make millions of dollars. They might make I don't know,
Well,
two hundred
some
thousand a
people
year,
say that in
and
New
then
York
at two
City, even a
hundred
million
thousand
of
a
dollars.
year, it is not very affordable to pay 4 or 5 thousand for your housing. So
Well,
so
we know.
they so affordability issues I think exist for middle income and higher income New Yorkers. To be honest.
Well,
And
that's not apparently that's not the case because there is still huge backlog of low income people looking for all sorts of housing. There is still lots of people living in substandard conditions and all those like American style communality in one of which I once lived, if you remember, for almost 2 years, being full U.S. citizen, not an immigrant, not an illegal immigrant, but a full U.S. citizen. So I know firsthand the problem of affordability and availability of housing in New York City. About slightly richer, affluent people, well, those people are willing to live in Manhattan for 4 or 5 thousand apartments. I know at least some wonderful girl, a singer who used to rent a studio in Manhattan and had nothing but a futon, nothing in that apartment, but she was willing to live in Manhattan. But
they're
yes, that
willing
could be
they're
addressed too, because people say that even $1 million in New York City is not a guarantee of carefree life. I liked about MTA, by the way. I liked Cuomo's
the
idea of
fact
New
that
York
they're willing
City.
to live in New York means that they should be paying such crazy rents. We could say the same thing about low-income New
The issue
Yorkers.
is
If
generally
they cannot
okay.
afford life in New York, let them move somewhere else. But we could say the
You
same
know,
things.
well, people who can afford 4 or 5 thousand for an apartment in New York City, they could move out and pay 2,000 somewhere, say in Jersey City. But the people who have, like, say, $1,500 on their hands a month, they're not gonna afford either 5,000 in Manhattan, nor even 2,000 in Jersey or in Long Island or whatever. And the majority of New York's residents are like that.
Definitely people living in New York with the low incomes could move somewhere else
No, they can't.
and pay less, just as people who
No, they can't. Many of
who have
them,
money can move
being
somewhere else.
just like me and you, being originally totally legal immigrants, simply do not have means to do that. Now, in Como and MTA, I liked his
Right. They
idea
only
for
have
the
means to
city
live
to
in New
take
York.
over MTA. At least originally, yes. I liked Como's idea of city taking over MTA. By the way, I didn't like to mention to criticize my candidate Sliva. I didn't like his appeal to during first debate to Mario Cuomo heritage, because Mario Cuomo, if you saw first debate, maybe he said, Sliva said, I knew Mario Cuomo, you're no Mario Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. He was channeling his own Lloyd Benson, the vice presidential candidate from 1988, Democratic candidate, who told Dan Quayle, who compared himself to JFK, that I knew Jackie Kennedy, you're no Jackie Kennedy. And that did not get him any pop that he probably counted on, Sliva, that is, because
Yeah,
Mario
Alex,
Cuomo
I
is a
think
controversial figure.
we'll have to finish soon because my free Zoom
Well, we can always repeat,
runs
можем
out, and
повторить.
I'm unwilling to pay for it.
Okay.
So,
Uh, I'm just giving you coverage. And
but
another thing, by the way, Cuomo made a big flop during his Democratic debate, and then Sliva did the same flop during first final debate when they went anti-immigrant. When Cuomo used the term illegal immigrants during Democratic debate, that was a big no-no. When Sliva said that the term migrants we don't need, that also drew some condemnation even from me. Yes, the migrant problem is a big problem, but to just say these are people we don't need in the city, that's very controversial. And Mamdani reminds that, this is a city of immigrants. This is ultimately originally a country of immigrants. And again, he is not my candidate. I wish Sliva well, and I'm upset that he was not able to increase his rating. But I'm just telling you like it is.
your position is very strange. You
I
support
I
you
agree.
support Sliva, who I'm sure would not support many of the things that you're justifying in Mamdani, as far as giving the handouts that Mamdani
Well,
is envisioning,
Leva had
and
his
then
ideas to address affordability and housing, and people should have listened to those.
not by freezing rent. That's not how you address it. Um,
Um, I guess that's where he also underworked, that he did not present a clear vision of how he would solve housing. He mentioned something about building more housing, but building more affordable housing sometimes meets pushback from local communities who fear that
But
this is affordable.
so
Mhm.
far, everything you've said pretty much points to your support of Mamdani. So that
No, I
people
will
don't.
vote for Sliva.
Well, whoever you voted for, well, you vote for Slivo. That, as we established, means vote for Mamdani. But tell us, why don't you? So it's clear. Why are you not supporting Mamdani if you seem to support many of his policies, if not all?
I wish we had a candidate who was the best of both worlds, who would be tough on crime, for instance, tough on quality of life issues, and at the same time suggest things to make life easier for New Yorkers. I don't see why it's impossible, why it's to combine those ideas. Now, Mamdani to me is too liberal. Yes, he could say, by the way, when people say you got such a thin resume, yes, but it's a successful resume. I provided the free buses line. I am this, I am that. It's not like you, because Cuomo has a history of failure. He has a big resume of failure. And Sliwa, you say,
By the way, getting back to the Jewish issue, I just
mhm,
recently read, I think yesterday I read, uh, a letter addressed
by
a letter
650
written
rabbis.
by three Jews that live in Mamdani's neighborhood, and they are
Mhm.
saying how uncomfortable living there became because of the threats that Jews get, the graffiti, the anti-Jewish graffiti, and Mamdani seems to do nothing to stop it. So, and that's from his own neighborhood. That's the record of success that you are
His record of success,
alluding
of
to.
course, I was not referring to that, and he will have to address that not only in his neighborhood but all over the place. Definitely, when he gets elected, he will have his feet to the fire, definitely, on everything he does, and he will not probably have much room for mistake. But again, as far as Jewish attitudes towards him, there has been a counter letter by several rabbis, mostly from Reform circles, in support of him. We've been told about 650 rabbis that signed the letter against him, to which I mentioned somewhere that if it's rabbis mostly from the type of congregations like we know to exist on Brighton Beach area, where there's like 1.5 invalids going there, then it's not a whole lot. You can gather 650 rabbis. In Crown Heights, everybody is a rabbi, by the way. I am not aware, honestly, of this letter by Jews living in the Mamdani district. And if it's something, definitely me supporting Curtis Sliwa, who once used to hang out with Mike Guzovsky, the successor to Rabbi Kahane. Definitely, I will be myself up in arms if somebody runs real anti-Semitic propaganda or Judophobic propaganda. That's another topic, probably for another day, because we are not the only Semites in town, not the only Semites in the world, and even in this town. Mamdani could be criticized because he's a strange Muslim. He's the son of a Palestinian Lutheran reverend, also a very left-wing leaning reverend, which is itself an oddball. But he's a Shiite also, and at the same time, he's a Shiite who supports LGBT. Right? What kind of Shiite are you? What kind of Muslim are you? Not enough criticism. I am not anti-LGBT at all, but not enough criticism by far was levied at him on that account.
Um, Alex,
But he
I always like to finish our Zooms neatly, like not in the middle of a sentence, and we have less than a minute left in our free, let me emphasize it, free version of Zoom. So thank you very much for appearing,
thank
and
you for having me.
we'll see how the city votes and what is in store for the city
Yeah, and
in the next
some
three
polls
years.
say that Mamdani will not even need Sliwa as a spoiler. So we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you again.